Welcome to the Dice Tower, a series of videos about games and the people who played them. And now, here are your hosts, Tom and Holly Vasel.
Welcome to the Dice Tower!
Alright, welcome to the Dice Tower. I'm Tom Vasel, and this is Holly, and welcome to episode number 2. Now, real quick thing here, if most of you are probably watching these via YouTube, but what I'm trying to do is trying to get this onto a syndicated feed so that people can download the videos if you'd like to watch them. And so, I don't know if I can pull it off, but I think I have an idea. But that does take some funds every month, so if you're interested in donating towards that so that we can pay the hosting fees to get these files, just email me at tomvasel@gmail.com, and I'll let you know how you can donate to the Dice Tower. The monies will go towards hosting fees, and if we have any left over, then we'll buy Holly some toys. Okay? How's that sound?
Good.
Yeah. But we'll see. But anyway, each show will have different things that we'll talk about here in the Dice Tower podcast. We talk about board games. Now, the lead-in to this whole show was my top 100 board games. Now, I played 1,500 board games, so that's less than the top 10%. So, because I'm, I guess, a geek in some sense of the word, I made my next top 100, the numbers 101 through 200, when I was making the list. And all those games are absolutely fantastic, too. And while they're maybe not as good as my top 100, they're all tremendous games that I would recommend anyone to get. So what we're going to be doing is going through those 5 at a time. And so today I'm going to be doing 101 through 105. So without any further ado, let's get to it. Number 101 is Pirates Cove. Pirates Cove is one of the first Days of Wonder games that just really, I mean, all of them blew me away. But this one was very impressive. It was a reprint of an older game. And, you know, so many pirate games have come out since this one's been on the market, but none of them have captured that pirate feel for me like this one has. I like the fact that this one, the little cubes that came in it were not cubes, but they were actually rectangles, making them like treasure chests. The idea of having your own ship and then configuring it to the way you want it. Yes, there are other games like Blackbeard and Winds of Plunder and all different pirate games that are more realistic, maybe they're even better games, but this one is just so much fun. It's fun to attack the other pirates. It's fun deciding which island you're going to go to, and everything has a very lighthearted feel and yet still maintains that pseudo-pirate feel to it. So that's why I enjoy this one so much. It just barely missed my top 100. It's been in there for a while, but I still enjoyed it. Played it a couple weeks ago. It works really well with 5 players. There's always fights going on. Fights are quick, bloody. Scores are usually not, they're close, but you know, usually you can, I would say maybe 3/4 of the way through, you can find out someone's losing, they don't have a lot of chance of catching up, and yet they still can have fun, they still can try and attack other players, or even go after the big pirate that's floating around that everyone can attack together. So, 101 for me is Pirates Cove from Days of Wonder. I know. Number 102 is a small game called Castle. Castle is a game which is, to me, very interesting because it's a 2 to 6 player game, and it plays completely different with 2 and with 6. Now, the game takes place, and it's kind of almost chintzy pieces. Yes, ma'am?
Amy's 6.
Yeah, I know. Amy is 6, but this is for 2 to 6 different players. You use these big pieces of cardboard, and you're forming a castle on the board. This castle will then be populated by an imaginary grid, and in that grid, you will be sticking different characters. For example, this is the king, and here is the Black Knight. And you have all different folks, and some folks go inside the castle, some folks go on the castle walls, some folks go outside the castle, and depending on where you place them, you may force a card to go back into someone else's hand. You put a token on a card to show that it's your person. So if I put out the king, I put a token out on him, maybe if let's say I'm black, and then if you put someone on the board, you can force that person back into my hand. I have a hand of characters that I need to get on the board, and I have a little pile of characters I also need to get on the board. Once all my stuff's out, I win. So by you forcing them back into my hand, it was going to take me longer to win. And the game is all about placement. A 2-player game is very strategic. Really trying to figure out the best way to lay your stuff down, to force the other cards back in your other player's hand, and to keep your own cards guarded. A 6-player game, on the other hand, is very chaotic, very silly fun. Everyone's sending cards back and forth. But because there's so many people involved. It's a completely different game. 2-player, very thoughtful, very quiet, sending this, playing here. 6-player, I'm putting a king down here, I'm sending these guards down, everything's going crazy. And I like that. I like it both. I think I like the 2-player game better, but overall, it's a good game either way. So my number 102 is Castle. All right, let's see what 103 is. 103 is Aladdin's Dragons. And I played this the other day and I thought, man, shouldn't that be in my top 100? And then I saw that it almost made my top 100. This is a game by Richard Breese in his Key series where he had Key Town and Cathedral and such. This one was actually rethemed into Aladdin's Dragons, and I liked the retheming of the game. The board itself is a very neat board. Almost too big. Here, I'll show it sideways. It shows the dragons layers at the bottom, the city, and then the palace at the top. And what players are doing in this game is they are taking tokens of their color, and they're basically blind bidding. They're putting them in different areas. So you know what token someone has put into an area, but you don't know how powerful that token is. It could be their measly 3 token, or it could be their very powerful 9 token. Or they could put multiple tokens, and whoever has the most tokens in the treasure area gets these different treasures, which really are neat. I mean, the orange ones, we call them chiclets, but these are little plastic treasure pieces, and when you get enough of these, you're able to use those to get different artifacts, and whoever has the most artifacts wins. Then there's an advanced version that gives you magic cards and lets you use artifacts for special abilities, and that's, in my opinion, the best way to play the game because it just adds so much more, not chaos, but a lot more interaction and more special powers to me are always something good in the game. So my 103 is Aladdin's Dragons by Rio Grande Game. 104 is a game and all its expansions, which I have in this unassuming plastic box. Now, today it comes sold in a big bullet, and they even have a 4th edition. I think I have the 2nd edition, and that is Bang. Now, Bang actually was much higher on my list. It was knocked out by Cash and Guns. It was knocked out by just the fact that sometimes with some players it goes on too long, but the core idea of the game is still just as much fun. 1 person's the sheriff, 3 people are outlaws, 2 people are deputies, 1 or 2 people are renegades, and everyone's trying to kill everyone else. Everyone's telling each other they're a different role than they probably are, except everyone knows who the sheriff is. You get different cards, you're shooting one another, bang, miss, new weapon, dynamite. It should be a Fast and Furious game. And when played like a Fast and Furious game, I have just a really high enjoyment of the game. So my number 104 is Bang. And finally, the last one we'll talk about today, 105, is Pericles. Pericles is another game by Martin Wallace, who is likely my favorite game designer. And the only reason Pericles isn't higher on the list is because it's a little heavier than several other games, so I don't get it played as much. But Pericles takes the ancient Greek Peloponnesian back-and-forth battles and manages to make a game out of it. During the course of the game, you'll be holding elections to get different cities, whether it be Athens or Sparta or Thebes, and the different cities that you're trying to get, and you're having elections so that you can control those cities. Once you control a city, you then have that city's military units, and you can use those to win different battles. And if you don't get any city at all, then you can control the Persians and come in and fight that way. So the game is like balancing 2 things, trying to win elections, and then when you win an election of a city, using their forces to your best advantage. The cities are very themed well, too. You know, Sparta does really well on the land. Athens does well on the sea. Thebes is somewhere in the middle. Some cities are smaller, but therefore maybe more people will ignore them. The Persians are pretty tough, but they're not invincible. And all this fits together with an attack system, which is a little almost funky in a sense, but it works well. And with some pretty neat pieces, the whole bidding and election system, then slash fighting, it just all meshes together for a really enjoyable time. So my number 105 game is Pericles. And that looks like those 5 games for today. Now, we won't be doing this straight every show. We'll probably wait a couple shows before we go to 106 through 110. But I'm hoping that these give you a quick snapshot of 5 excellent games. Anyway, until next time, I'm Tom Vasel, and this is Holly. We'll see you guys next time.